So I've been asked, how do you make a wooden bowl? Well, let me show you the major steps. First, you start with a tree. Then you cut the tree into logs about the size you'd use for a fireplace. After that, you use your chainsaw to cut that log down the middle. Then you cut it in half, so it's approximately squarish in cross-section. When it's approximately square, you'll use a compass to draw the biggest circle you possibly can, staying within the boundaries of the square board. Then you put that inscribed circle on the roughly square board on your bandsaw, and you cut around the line that you just drew. And you do that in order to end up with something that's roughly cylindrical in shape. You want it to be relatively thick. You'd want the sides to be pretty much parallel. And you'd want it to be as circular as possible. So that's there. And by the way, what a lathe is it's just a motor that drives the head, and then you got your tailstock over here which holds the back end. The tailstock can slide all the way out. This one goes to 48 inches, and it goes at variable speeds. And although we did our best to cut it perfectly circularly, you can see that it's not quite circular. And so first we're going to start off with a low speed and smooth it out so that it is perfectly round and at least more or less flat. Now, after putting on the face shield and the face mask, we can actually start to do some turning. So we're using a carbide turning tool here. And you're going to notice that it's pretty wobbly to start with. And we know that. So we've turned the speed down a little. So this is the tool. It's got a sharp carbide tip here. So we turn on the lathe. We just So you can see how it's already starting to vibrate less and getting more round. And the places where we've chipped off here are kind of the high spots. So we'll pick it up again in a moment. All right, now we've taken out some of the high spots, able to turn the speed up a little bit and move the tool rest in closer. You can see how it's kind of chipped out on some of the end grain here. And the objective is to, on this end, we're going to try to put a tenon on here so that we can turn the thing around and fit it into these jaws and hollow out the inside. So let's go with a little bit more of that. So that's getting a much more rounded bowl shape here. This tenon is maybe a little bit smaller, but it's about the right size to fit into the jaws. and we can start kind of rounding it off a little bit. So it's beginning to look a little bit more and more like a bowl. These areas will disappear as this becomes more of a bowl. And once I get the outside of the bowl shaped, I will turn it around and begin to hollow out the inside. But I did want to show it's kind of cool to just watch how this works as the tool begins moving slowly and just taking away rings here. You don't ever know exactly how it's going to turn out, exactly what shape you want the bowl to take. I think I started making a little curved top to the rim here. So I think I'm going to take it off now and turn it around. So let's do that. And yes, we do generate an awful lot of sawdust. It was cedar, and so we'll put that one in first. I also did a birch one while the camera was off. So that goes right up there like that. And then we tighten it. Oops. Tighten it. Make sure it's very tight because we don't want it flying off at 2000 RPM. And we can start to hollow out the center. So I've also moved the tool rest here to be along the face. You want it as close to the work as you can so that it doesn't have nearly as much chance to move. So let's turn this thing on and start cutting out the middle. So once you get it pretty much the way you want it, and this is about right, the wall thickness is pretty consistent, the curvature is nice. It does have some cracks in it. Now this piece of wood is cedar and has some cracks. I think we can take care of those later. The next step is going to be to sand it, and conveniently enough, it's mounted on this lathe here, and so all I have to do is kind of hold a piece of sandpaper and it'll sand itself. So sitting on the mantle here next to the previously finished birch bowl is the one that was in the video that you saw the several different steps on. Obviously I skipped several steps there, but I think it came out pretty well. It's nicely finished. There's a few flaws in it here and there, but I won't point those out. But so this is the cedar bowl, and you've now seen essentially the entire process of turning a wooden bowl.